Alright, so I'm going to do my best to not ramble on and actually have this in some sort of chronological order of what I actually want to talk about and have it make sense. But that's not always easy for me. It's why I prefer to write out my natal chart readings instead of doing like a FaceTime or Skype call or something, because I cannot stay on topic and I cannot organize my thoughts without having them written down in front of me. But I do have some written down in front of me, so hopefully this goes as I hope and pray it will, but there is no guarantee. I wanted to talk about astrology, of course, as I always do, and what is so great about it, and what place can it hold in our lives, and how can it help us, how can it benefit us, why should we care about astrology. It's really hit kind of the mainstream lately, and it's always been something that people have kind of known a little bit about, like horoscopes, daily horoscopes, your sun sign, like I'm a Scorpio, you're a Libra, all that stuff. But now it's more getting in the deeper end of astrology, in that there's a lot more people who realize that they have a birth chart, a natal chart. There's a lot more people who know their sun sign and their moon sign and their rising sign even, and know that there's all sorts of other signs. There's a Mercury sign, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the list goes on, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron. People are realizing that there's a lot more to it than just a sun sign and a daily horoscope, which is great. But with that, and with the popularization of really any topic, I think that we can all say sometimes it loses its meaning and its integrity, but just making it seem like it's more of a personality game than it is an actual tool for self-growth, which is what I use astrology for, and which is why I love astrology so much, because it has changed the way that I see myself. And it has helped me develop confidence in areas of my life and in my personality that I didn't think I could ever feel confident about. And it has helped me understand others as well, which is an amazing gift, to be able to understand the people around you and to see how they show love, how they show care, how they need to be shown love, how they need to be shown care, how you can cater yourself to the people that you love and care about, and not hold bitterness and resentment towards, they don't treat me the way that I want to be treated, or they don't talk to me the way I want to be talked to. It just helps you understand. And astrology is never a justification. You know, you can't get along with everyone. You can't get along with every sign, every placement. You know, there's going to be people who are going to challenge the things that you love and need from people and want from them. And you're going to realize that there's some people who just maybe can't give that to you, and it's not their fault, is the thing that astrology teaches us, is it's not anyone's fault, it's just how your stars lay. I'll use my relationship as an example, actually, when I talk about kind of like understanding how someone else shows love, and sometimes it's not always the way that you want it, but it doesn't mean that they're not showing it. So my boyfriend has Venus in Virgo. Venus is kind of your relationship planet, just to generalize it, and I have Venus in Scorpio. Forgot what I was talking about for a minute. This is why I don't do this kind of stuff. But yeah, so my boyfriend has Venus in Virgo and I have Venus in Scorpio. And Venus and Virgo people are very practical in love. They are not always like the grand romantics. They're not always very affectionate. Virgo in itself is a rather emotionally cold and detached sign, because they struggle with emotional expression and emotional acceptance. And they're, being an earth sign, Virgo is an earth sign. Earth signs are a lot more focused in the material, physical realm of their lives than they are what's inside them, the internal, emotional side of themselves, so they're not very in touch with that. And Venus in Scorpio is, because Scorpio is a very emotionally deep sign, and they feel things very intensely. Especially when your Venus is in Scorpio, you have very intense, very emotional relationships with other people, and they go very deep, and you feel it very deeply. You feel it at its extreme. You feel love at its extreme. So when I'm looking for this emotional depth and this emotional nurture and love and care, he's not always providing me with that. But what he is doing is he's cleaning up the house for me. He's scraping the ice off my car. He's asking if I need to go somewhere. He's offering me rides. He's calling me on his way home from work and saying, do you need tampons or something? You know, like little things like that. That is how he shows his love, through those practical, more earthy ways within our physical realm, than through the emotional intensity that I feel it. And that's just one example. So when I was able to learn that and understand that, I was able to accept his love for how he could give it instead of wishing that he could show it in a different way. When you have different love languages like that, you may start to think that they just don't love you, or that they don't care for you, or that they just don't understand you. And that's where astrology can be such a helpful tool, especially in this realm of compatibility, because it shows it's not that they don't love you, they're just showing it in a completely different way, and you're not looking for it in that form because that's not how you show it. I feel like when you can understand people, it's a lot easier to accept, appreciate, and love them because you know where they are coming from. You know what their perspective is, you know what their struggles are, you know what's easy for them and what's not. Continuing on though, I'll go back to my first point that I was going to make, which is that astrology is great because it's not as general as you may think. And I kind of did discuss it a little bit in the beginning, and I think this is one point that people are kind of starting to realize as astrology comes into the more mainstream. It's not general. It's far from a general study. It's not just a sun sign. It's not just a daily horoscope. It's not just I'm a Libra or you're a Leo or whatever. It's you have a sign for every planet that we know of, as well as your sun and moon sign, which are considered planets. They're actually considered luminaries within astrology, the lights. And you have a rising sign, and the rising sign is where astrology really gets personalized, because your rising sign, technically called your ascendant sign, it's the sign that is rising on the eastern horizon the second that you're born, the minute that you're born. And that sign is what lays out and determines your actual natal chart. So that sign determines where your houses fall. And it's hard for me to explain without having a picture to provide you guys with that I can point out, which maybe sometime I'll do through a video, but right now what you can do is you can Google your natal chart, and if you've never looked it up before, if you do and you have looked it up, then you probably are fairly familiar with the houses. You may not understand them. They're a little bit more of an intermediate thing within astrology, and they get kind of a little trickier to understand and interpret. But that's where an astrologer can come into play too, and you can, always check out my website. I'll link it in this description. So astrologers can kind of help the interpretation of your houses and the interpretation of any planets that fall in those houses, the signs ruling those houses, the planets ruling those houses, and that can be of great help because sometimes astrology is very difficult to interpret on your own. Being self-taught, you really have to seek out your resources, and there's so many different interpretations of certain placements, and that's what I love about it too. And I'm getting off topic, and I understand that, but that's another thing that I love about astrology is there is really no black and white answers. Sometimes there's black and white answers and everything, but astrology is, a lot of it is based on just interpretation. And I think if people can understand that astrology in and of itself is an interpretation, and when an astrologer reads your chart, they might interpret your chart fairly differently from another astrologer, and that is okay because we are human and we are complex and we have been blessed with this complexity. So it's impossible to completely pin someone down based upon their natal chart, because there's so much that you can interpret and so many different ways that you can interpret certain placements, certain houses, certain aspects. So that's another thing, is it goes so far, and it is so much more complex than people even believe. It is so far from general. You have your signs, you have your houses, and then you have aspects, which is how certain planets are relating to other planets based upon angles. And again, this is all information that you can find on the internet. It's also information that you can find in my guide, How to Read Your Natal Chart, that I created a little while ago, quite a few months ago. But that is also available on my website. It's about a 20-page long guide, and it kind of just goes over the very basics of what you need to know to understand your chart and in order to read it. It's $5 for this 20-page guide. You can check it out on my website. I like to think it's pretty helpful. So I think I fairly well covered the not as general as you may think. So let's move on, because we're about 14 minutes in, and I'm gonna get like really rambly after a while here. I've been talking for 14 minutes straight, and that's just hard for me to handle. My next point I wanted to make about why astrology is so great is astrology can help you understand and validate yourself. And this also kind of goes back to understanding others, which is why I wanted that point to be last, because first I wanted to talk about how astrology can help you understand yourself and then lead into understanding others. It just makes more sense that way, but it just didn't go that way. One of the greatest things about astrology, the thing that has just opened my eyes to a whole new world, and has made me develop this deep passion for astrology, and also introducing astrology to other people and helping other people understand their natal charts, is that astrology provides you with self-awareness. And there's so much that you can do with being aware of yourself and being aware of how you behave, why you behave that way, what your insecurities are, your gifts and your talents, your fears, your worries. And those are all things that you might like be listening to this and you're like, I think I already know those things, like duh. But it's not even just about knowing them. It's about knowing that they were given to you by something bigger than you. It's about knowing that you have been gifted with these things. Even like your insecurities and your self-doubts and your worries, those are a gift, because those are a place to start growing from. That is something that you've become aware of and that you can now move forward from and have that experience of feeling those things about yourself or about life, those fears, those worries. That is a place to move from. That is inspiration to go forward. Astrology explains literally everything to you. Like there is not a topic of your life that cannot be somewhat interpreted through your natal chart. Your childhood, your interests, insecurities, gifts, talents, relationships, jobs, career, the children that you may have, the partners that you may have, the way you view like dating and romance, just the way you view your own like emotions, how you express your emotions, your ego. Like there is not your drive, your ambition, your communication, how you talk, how you speak, how you write. There is not a thing within astrology that cannot be found. There is not a part of yourself that is not somewhat included in your natal chart and in your placements, which is so interesting. Just the fact, and I don't know if everyone else would feel this way, but this is kind of also leading into my next point about how astrology is great because it shows you your potential and your purpose in this life. I find comfort in the fact that this chart, my natal chart, my horoscope, was casted the second that I was born. That there was something higher than me, whether you want to call it God, the universe, the planets, the stars, like whatever you want to call it, the energy, like I don't know what you want to call it, but whatever you call it, there was something higher than you, higher than me, that knew what you were going to struggle with, what you were going to succeed in, where you could go, what your purpose was, what your potential was. There was something higher than you that already knew what your life was going to have in store for you. There was a predestined plan for you, in essence, and within that predestined plan there is free will, that you can make the decision to either grow from something bad, do good with something that you've been blessed with, create something out of nothing, create something out of something. Like there's just so much free will within this predestined chart, that it's certainly anything but fixed. Predestination can be a scary concept for people because they want to feel like they're in control of your own life. But within astrology, this predestined concept of your natal chart is not taking away any of your control. You know, it's not saying that you don't have control over this situation, or this is going to happen to you and there's nothing that you can do about it. There is still so much free will. Astrology gives you a starting place. Astrology provides you with a place that you can just start from and move forward. That you can start here and you can either make something out of this difficulty or you can let it consume you. You can either take your gifts and your talents and you can do good with them and you can create something beautiful out of them, or you can use them for greed and you can use them for vanity. You can use them to build your own ego. Astrology just provides you with potential. It doesn't tell you whether or not you're going to live up to that potential or whether or not you're going to live through your purpose and get to the end of where this predestined chart wanted you to be or said that you could go. It doesn't tell you if you're going to do that, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. It tells you that you can do it. It shows you that this is where you are now, but this is where you can go. And that is why I think astrology is like one of our greatest gifts that we could be utilizing for ourselves, because it provides you with that purpose, you know, like it gives you a feeling of I'm part of something bigger. Like this is something that the universe, this higher power, whatever you want to call it, this is where they wanted me to go. This is the gifts that they gave me and the talents and the purpose that they provided me with, because they know that I have the potential to be here and to be doing this. And it shows you how you can use this potential and this purpose to serve something bigger than yourself. Yeah. I think that might be all I have to say. Ooh, that was a lot. That was a mouthful. My apologies if none of it made sense. I think a lot of it probably did. So I'm happy about that. I think I started off pretty strong. Towards the end there, it got a little like, it's just, some of this stuff like is hard to like, even for me to put into words, which is again why I prefer to write things out, because it's really hard for me to speak on the spot about things and like have it come out clearly. I have Mercury in Sagittarius, and if there's people out here listening to this who know what Mercury and Sagittarius people are like, or maybe have that placement yourself, it's just like thought, like, and it's coming out weird. It's not coming out right. And again, like even that statement I just made did not come out right. I like talking, it's just difficult sometimes. I hope this doesn't feel like a waste of your time. Check out my website. Purchase a natal chart reading if you'd like. I would love to help you out in understanding your chart and finding your potential and your purpose. Yeah. Thank you. I think I'm just going to say bye now. All right, yeah, bye. Have a good day.